During Morey's 13-season tenure with the team, the Rockets have been eliminated by the NBA champion 4 times and by the West finalists 6 times, including the last 3 and 5 of the last 6 postseasons, despite having the second highest win percentage over that span. Stephen A., what kind of problems is Morey stepping down going to cause for the Rockets?
Well, I don't think it's going to cause much problems, believe it or not, because I'll leave Max to talk about Morey in the other regard. What I will say to you about Morey is that he is somebody that's very respected. If you know him, he's likable. He's a good man. It doesn't mean that he's flawless. Obviously, he made some mistakes with his comments, his tweets about China at that time, and, you know, the brouhaha that caused. But Daryl Morey is a chance taker. I applaud him for that. He doesn't stand still. He went for it, and he's to be commended for that. The flip side to it, Max, is that 12, 13 years at the helm, went to the conference finals a couple of times. You never got over the hump. And at some point in time, you got to try something new. The reason why I think that it's not going to be that big of a loss right now, this guy Raphael Stone's been around for a long time. I think the Rockets as an organization are very, very high on him. And I think that it can be a situation, and I want to be very careful about what I'm saying. On one hand, it's a plus, Max, that you have such a relationship with James Harden. You have such a relationship with the coach, and y'all all vibe together. But when you don't get it done, change has to take place. And the very relationship you cultivated makes it incredibly difficult for you to provoke and implement the change that might be needed. And that's where it gets a bit dicey for Daryl Morey. Of course, he tried it with D'Antoni. I'm quite sure he didn't want to get rid of D'Antoni. I'm quite sure that was Tillman Fertitta. Make no mistake about it, because Tillman Fertitta is the kind of guy, he don't want to hear about analytics, but this worked right and that worked right, and we did this the right way. If you the one going home and somebody else still playing, you don't want to hear about numbers. Show that you did the right thing.
Don't tell me about process. Show me the results.
Show me the results. That's Tillman Fertitta, okay? Daryl Morey is your guy. It's about that process. And there's little ways and increments that take place to show that you win. And sometimes for an owner like that, that's not going to mess. It doesn't mean they disliked one another or they had bad feelings towards one another or anything like that. I don't know, but I don't think that was the case. I think what it is that Tillman Fertitta is a guy, don't show me the process, show me the results. Daryl Morey is all about that process. And in the end, you got to show results for somebody. And now that you got Harden there with Russell Westbrook is a star. James Harden, to me, is a superstar offensive player. They both got a lot of pride, especially in the case of Russell Westbrook. Listening ain't his strongest forte. He's going to do him. You've got to find somebody that can get themselves inside his head and say, there's a different way you got to do things sometimes. There's a few things that you got to work on. And I don't know if Daryl Morey was that guy. Yeah. And that's what I'm looking at.
I haven't spoken to Tillman Fertitta or Daryl Morey
about this. I have not spoken to Tillman Fertitta about this.
My gut tells me that Daryl Morey didn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
Because I don't think he wanted to work for Tillman Fertitta.
And I think Fertitta didn't want him there anymore.
Right. And so you part ways. It's the right thing to do. First of all, let me just say, I don't think it was the wrong thing for Daryl Morey to say people should be free, essentially, and oppressive communist governments are bad. I think the timing was wrong because our guys were over there, right? But you can always have excuses for not doing the right thing. I think in the larger scheme of things, Daryl Morey did the right thing. I'm sure Tillman Fertitta wasn't happy about it.
I disagree with that point. But
I get it. We've debated that. Right. I'm sure he wasn't happy about it because Yao Ming meant they had a huge presence in China. You know, once upon a time they had a kind of a foothold and an earlier entry to that market in a big way than maybe some other teams. I'm sure Tillman Fertitta wasn't happy about that. In fact, we know he wasn't. D'Antoni was Morey's choice. And let me say something about Daryl Morey as a GM. He swung for the fences, right? So in boxing, in boxing, you might have a corner man who his guy's getting beat because the other guy's just better, and he comes back, no, you have to do everything we worked on. What you worked on isn't working. Maybe tell the guy, try and get him out of there because that's your only chance, right? Maybe you get knocked out even quicker, but at least you have a chance to win. Daryl Morey viewed the landscape. For whatever reason, Houston and Dallas, 2 major markets in Texas, warm weather state, no state tax, don't get free agents to sign. Like LA does with a high state tax. Miami does, no tax, but also like Miami. But Houston and Dallas have not been perceived by the players as glamour markets, even though in many ways they're desirable markets, including player-friendly owners and well-run franchises. So given that you're not expecting to sign a big free agent, he found an underrated asset, undervalued in James Harden, trade for him. He put something together and then realized we still can't match other teams' talents. Let's swing for the fences. Let's shoot all threes and shots, in the paint. Let's get rid of our center and redo it again and go to micro ball. A guy like that, a GM like that, is not easy to find. Daryl Morey not only had the analytics, he had the guts to follow through on what he did, and some team will be very lucky to hire him.
They will be very lucky to hire him, and I'm a fan of his, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you endorse the implementation of a system that affects players in such a way that it makes it almost impossible for someone to follow. And when you do that, you got to win.
Absolutely. A
You gotta win.
results-driven business. We all know that. All right, guys.
NBA champion once again.
Jeff Zilgit.
LeBron, 3 seasons ago, after you beat Toronto, you told Cleveland.com that you didn't have anything left to prove, or you asked what you had left to prove. And I wanted to know if that's changed over the past 3 years. Did you feel you had something to prove, and why is this one so important for you?
I think, personally, thinking I had something to prove fuels me and fueled me over these last year and a half since my injury. It fueled me because no matter what I've done in my career to this point, there's still a little rumblings of doubt or, comparing me to, the history of the game and has he done this, has he done that? Having that in my head, having it in my mind, saying to myself, why not still have something to prove? I think it fuels me.
All right, Dave McMenamin.
LeBron, all the circumstances surrounding this one, being in Orlando, having 4.5-month hiatus, away from family, everything going on in the country, how does that add context to this fourth ring versus the other three?
I think they're all special in their own right. They all have their obstacles, things that went on throughout the course of the year, both on and off the floor. But one is not less than the other. Because when you're able to put yourself in this position to be able to win a championship, the first thing you start to think about is how much work you've put in over the course of the year. How much you've sacrificed, how much you dedicated to the game and to your craft. That's always been the most fulfilling thing for me, besides seeing my teammates as happy as they are, is being able to know that you could put the work in, literally trust the process, live up the process, and then see the results. And I think not only from a basketball player, but from everybody, whatever craft, whatever work space you're in, to be able to put the work in and live along the process and build along the process and then be able to see the results, I think we all live for that moment.
Okay, we're gonna go Michael.
Again.
It's gonna be everybody tonight.
LeBron, could you sense that with the mental wear of the bubble that it was getting to other teams? And in the last few days, was there kind of a weird feeling of we're reaching, not just possibly winning a championship, but reaching the end of this journey? Like, did that feel different even than the other title runs?
To answer your first question, with so much going on inside the bubble and everything, and us, going into unknown, it's kind of hard for me personally. Once I got inside here, saying, okay, this is my mission. I want to win a championship since I'm here. It was hard for me to kind of focus on other teams and what other players were feeling. I didn't engage in that. I didn't look forward. I wanted to keep my energy in the right space. And over the last couple of days, you definitely thought about it. You thought about just being here, how successful it is. And I commend Adam Silver in the NBA, and Michelle Robert, Chris Paul over at the NBPA, and so many people that had it to make this happen, to make this work. And I think we all can say, from the social injustice conversations, the voter suppression, police brutality, have this platform and have our players be able to unite like that, it's something that you will miss. You will think back on it. And I think one of the biggest things, not only besides the social injustice and all the things I mentioned, we had 0 positive tests. We had 0 positive tests for as long as we were here. 90-some days, 95 days maybe myself. I had a little calendar, I was checking it off. Like, no, but on a serious note, no positive tests. That's a success for everybody that was involved.
Okay, Kabul.
LeBron, what about this partnership that you have with Anthony makes it particularly special to you?
I can't really explain it. There's just certain things you just know. In any type of relationship, you kind of just feel, you just know that vibe. You have that respect. You have that drive, and sometimes you can't explain what links you with somebody, and then it's that organic. And sometimes you don't even try to explain. Sometimes you guys ask me about my relationship with AD. The first thing I think about is respect, the no ego, the challenging each other, and we want each other to be better than actually ourselves. Like, I want AD to be better than me.